Good morning and welcome to Daybreak Live on Dominion Television, Ibadan. I'm Manulu Akpoido. We begin this morning with a major development in Nigeria's education sector. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, says candidates seeking admission to study education and agriculture will now be exempted from writing the UTME. The decision is already generating debates, and is this a bold step to encourage interest in critical sectors, or does it raise fresh concerns about standards and competitiveness in higher education? At a time when the country is searching for solutions to food security challenges and a struggling education system, many believe the conversation goes far beyond admissions. And that is going to be our Daybreak gist this morning. We also bring you the weather report and Daybreak news, keeping you informed on the major developments shaping the nation and beyond.
And I am Samson Balogun. Later, we turn to the newspapers, where this morning's headlines reflect the country's political, economic, and social realities. We'll examine the stories making the front pages and the conversations driving public reaction. Then, our big story takes us into one of Nigeria's deepest social challenges: education or abandonment, tackling the menace of out-of-school children in Nigeria. Millions of children remain outside the classrooms despite repeated interventions and policy promises. But beyond the statistics lies a bigger national concern. What happens to a society when access to education becomes uncertain for a large part of its younger population? Is the problem rooted in poverty, insecurity, weak policy implementation, or a combination of all three? And joining us for that conversation is Alhaji Iskil Yusuf, former Controller General of Prisons and founder of the Child Development and Concern Foundation.
Right, and before we round off today, Trend Watch will take us through the stories, reactions, and conversations gaining momentum across the country.
All right, the future of any nation is shaped long before election season.
Absolutely. Well, sometimes it begins in the classroom or in the absence of one.
And this is Daybreak Live on Dominion Television, your channel of choice. So stay with us this morning.
Stay with us.
All right.
Good morning, Samson.
Wonderful morning to you.
Yes.
Really nice to always be here every morning, doing what we know how to do best, and talking about trending political issues and how permutations and combinations favor the Nigerian people, and of course what governance truly means for them, and the implications of some stories they find on the pages of the newspaper.
Absolutely.
Then we dig beyond the surface, scratch beyond the surface, and say it as it is on this show. That takes us to the education sector this morning, and that is an area where so many Nigerians would love to have a lot of conversations, ask a lot of questions, because oftentimes people don't really understand what's going on in there. It's an area that once favored Nigeria, where most Nigerian graduates will get outside the country and they would do excellently well. And we've seen Nigerians who left the shores of the country having done their basic education and going out there, and they became really excellent in what they were doing. And we have seen a lot of Nigerians, look at Wole Soyinka and so many other people who have done so well for themselves. And this is now a sector that has suffered a little bit of retrogression in the last few years, and people are asking a lot of questions. There are sectors of the education industry that really needs to be focused on, which is the education itself. Okay, so many people would talk, to some people, if you study education, it means that you are somehow weak or not too good at what you do. Probably you were shipped to education. And oftentimes you see people who actually applied for admission, and then because they could not get the cost of their desire, they are affirmed to the education, to education. And this raises questions about competence at the end of the day, and interest. Because if you are not really interested in what you are doing, you might as well, tell on the outcome of whatever it is you have set out to do with the certificate you get from there. Some people have also asked questions about how viable is our certification in Nigeria. Okay, you've gone to school, you've studied, but are you truly employable? Recently, someone in the finance industry made reference to a particular thing that generates outbursts, reactions, counter reactions about, they have openings, about 500 of that in his company, but he hasn't really seen employable Nigerians. And some also talked about, how much were you willing to pay these people when you brought them on board? Because sometimes remuneration can also determine the quality of hands you get. And if you are not paying so well, even your best hands will leave. And we have seen that happen in so many industries: telecommunication, media, and some other industries where the best hands will leave for better opportunities, just for the fact that they are not getting what they think they deserve or what is obtainable in some other in saner climes. However, these steps taken by the Ministry of Education, Joint Admission Matriculation Board, because that decision by JAMB cannot be taken unless the Ministry of Education is totally in the know of what is going on. If you want to study agric, I mean, we are talking about food security. You don't need JAMB anymore. Just focus on whatever it is you want to study, and then that will be it. And also for some colleges of education, they have also been exempted from writing JAMB. There used to be a time where we wrote PC, and there was Poly JAMB, and then there was JAMB itself, right? If you want to go to the Polytechnic, you write a different JAMB, and if you want to go to the university, you write something different. However, a time came when it was merged, and it's now dependent on how much you get, your cutoff mark for your institution, and how much you score. That now determines, where you go. And then there was a time where if you fail to meet up with the cutoff marks of some institutions, you are farmed to private polytechnics. I mean, that should be stopped, actually. Because what we are trying to preach is that some of these private polytechnics where they are shipped to, they are less of an institution. And we should be looking at how to make sure that every institution in Nigeria and their certificates actually becomes interesting to people to get. Otherwise, we'll just have an education sector where the moment you hear about it, everyone just wants to look the other way.
I think it's a strategic adjustment, really. I think it's not been done for like decades in the country. We've not had such bold reforms that will sweep off the sector, the education sector, as this one is going to do according to their projections. But, there are pros and there are cons to this. There are merits and there are demerits as well. But it depends on where we look at. So if you want to focus on the disadvantage of this, we would find a lot. But if you also want to focus on the positive sides of this, we'll also find enough to go about. But again, I think for one, maybe I'm going to start with the demerit. And that's because I feel JAMB is centralized and is, I think it's one of the, I don't want to say the most written examination in the country, but I think it is actually. Because everybody that wants to proceed from secondary school must take JAMB, to whether or not you want to even go to colleges or to polytechnics or polytechnics or even the university, you need to pass through that system. And I think, for one, if there's anything I think I know about this institution, that's JAMB particularly, I think it makes a lot of sense to put everybody on their toes. JAMB is not something that is local. It's not your secondary school examination. It's not your local community examination. It's a national examination that is being written by everybody across the country. And I think it's very important to note why that is necessary. It's necessary because, of course, there will be a standardized acceptability. So for universities, before, I think maybe some universities still have caption. They have caption areas where they can accept students from these places, even when they have not scored so much, or they have scored maybe the expected score. They still take them in. But all of this now would say, if people don't write JAMB, what then do they write? So if you say you want
probably there will be a new form of entrance examinations introduced.
Yeah, but how? Because we understand how structured JAMB is. JAMB is solid already. It has a foundation. JAMB is something we know. Well, people still boycott. People still find a way of doing malpractice, but it's not as common as that of O-level. And I dare say this because I've been in the system for a while too, and I've seen how it plays out. So JAMB is more structured. There was a time when I wrote my JAMB CBT, PBT rather. That's paper-based test. It wasn't a computer-based. So when I wrote my JAMB, it was so difficult. I read my life out. I mean, you had to read because this is not even something you've gone through. There's something we call series, that material that shows different examinations over the years
past questions.
Past questions, and then you relate with them. Sometimes when you score low marks, you're like, yeah, is this what I'm going to be faced with? And it makes a lot of sense to say JAMB is solid enough, right? An average person that passes JAMB without help, unhelped by anybody, it has a chance of really maybe striving in the university system, because that's one of the ways you're ready for admission. If you really do well in JAMB, there's a chance you do well. I'm not saying, because obviously the people that are even flunking out of universities. Many of them wrote jams, right? And some of them had good scores. But that's not to displace the place where you understand how important jam is to the education system. So for me, I think maybe I'll go the old man way. And the old man way will be that I love jam. Can we retain jam for whether or not you study agriculture or you study education? Because at the end of the day, the other demerit of education particularly is if we have people who go from maybe colleges and then get admission and all of that without jam, there's a chance that the standard might become low. I mean, a lot of persons have talked about the issue with the Nigerian education system, particularly the shortage of teachers in our schools across board. And yes, maybe that's why the federal government is thinking, okay, so let's do something to tackle this. So let's have many people go into colleges of education instead of that array of people trying to enter into the university. So let them have colleges also as a place to go to, so we can now deploy them to the education sector to teach our kids. But again, that begs the question, how standard would the education that is going to be given by those people be compared to those who go through the education system through university? Because that has to be a conversation too, because that is the foundation of the future. So the foundation of the future cannot be built on a brittle structure. It has to be a solid one. So we need not just I know yes, underpayment, I know shortage of staff, I know all of this emolument, I know all of those issues that we have in the sector. But I'm thinking this kind of policy might just retrogress the same situation. It might just make us go back like 10 years behind now in terms of the quality of education we administer to pupils at the lower level. If we just have that, I know NCE students, I'm looking for a way not to maybe hurt some people's feelings. If you attended NCE, you are an amazing person. I'm not discriminating. There's no discrimination from me. I'm just saying that, can we make it more that, yes, we have people who wants to go to the NCE and let them go, but also let them have trainings also. I let them have more training to be able to build our foundation, because the kids, the young ones at the very core level, of course, the kindergarten, the primary level, those are the ones we need to really focus, because once their foundation is good, then we can assure ourselves of a better tomorrow for them in terms of education. Again, agriculture. Well, they made, one of the things they said in it is that for non-engineering agricultural kind of thing, so they have made a distinction between agricultural studies and the ones that would deal with maybe mechanization or would deal with technology. They have separated because it's agricultural technology, and that's also at the Faculty of Tech in the University of Ibadan, for example. It's an engineering course, and you don't want to joke with that. So because they have to go through everything every engineering student will go through to become an agricultural engineer. Exactly. So there has to be a curriculum for that. So they have exempted those ones to say you're not part of this quota. But again, I would like to say that, how well can they teach agriculture outside of maybe the university setting? How well can they teach it without passing jam? Because many people, and for one, I'll state this example. One thing I know, for many people who wanted to become medical doctors in the University of Ibadan when they applied, many of them nursing, many of them other courses.
Botany, zoology.
Yeah. I can assure you that many people who eventually studied agriculture.
Some people did veterinary
medicine.
Yeah.
So many of them that wanted to do whatever they wanted to do were shipped. What's the word you farm?
They were farm.
they were thinking it was like a tsunami. They take them away to say, okay, we're sorry, we cannot give you this.
It's the same for people who wanted to study law and ended up in English
or some education. And a good number of them. But at the end of the day, I think we have not come to the point of understanding that every sector is just as important as the other. And it is not to now demean one by trying not to let them go through a process because you want more people in it. I think if we have it structured at even the bigger level of employment, I think it makes a lot of sense to say, if we have remuneration that is correct for teachers, people won't mind going to the university. You will read your life out, get your JAMB, get the score, get into the university setting, do NCE, do a direct entry into university, and get the job done. We can let them go through the rigorous process, but let it be sure that they will get something at the end of it. Because that's the point. If I go through all of this and I get to be paid 30,000 naira per month in a school that I'm teaching, how do you want me to give my best, right? And it's another thing that I keep saying, why we have these issues at that level, is that we don't have a good way of training our teachers. See, I know it's one thing to say someone is good at something, but it's another thing to keep improving. The greatest musicians in this world, I think, was it Leonardo DiCaprio? I can't remember his name now. It was born talented. It was, they said, from at the very young age of about 3, he was playing the keyboard, right? But after he grew up, there was something that was discovered about his life. He practiced almost every day for 30 minutes. And how do you take that out? Because someone who has been adjudged to be talented is something, is practicing. What does it tell us? It tells us the place of practice, the place of consistency, the place of doing it again. And I think I want to say that training should be, is essential for everybody at the work rate level, at the work level. Anybody that is doing one thing or the other, education, agriculture, we need training. In fact, that's why we have something called agriculture extension. That's where we train agriculturists, people who have done it for years. But that's not enough, because the times are changing. Talk about the climate change, right? Talk about some of the weather patterns that are changing, the inconsistency in the weather pattern. That is also important for them. So a farmer that grows maybe like 10,000 crops, 10,000 worth of crops, last year, or 7 years or 10 years ago, got maybe 30,000 naira off it after sales, would not have the same now, because of this, of course, situations at hand. So also we understand the weather. Maybe you need to do a lot of mechanized farming. You need to do a lot of artificial irrigation, because you know these things, the rain has not been consistent. So you understand you have to do a lot. You have to invest more to get more. You know, that's the story. I think it's also about training at the work level. Not just, I know, yeah, it's good at the education level that they're trying to make changes, but let's make the bigger changes too. The employment level, the work level. How can we make this better? I know there are people who study insects. I don't know what that's called. I can't remember the exact word, but there's something about gynecology. I can't remember. But whatever logy it is, they study insects in the US or across the world in Europe, and they still get paid so well. You see, so they are bent on just that one thing, and then they do it well, right? And you might say, what's insects in this world? Why is it necessary? But they'll tell you why it's necessary, because they are being remunerated. An average person who is doing who is teaching I have some of my friends, my colleagues, that are teaching white people English, right? I have some of them that are teaching white people other things that they are doing. But then if you ask them, how much do you get paid? You'll be surprised that, oh yeah, I see why you have to have passion for this. They are doing with passion, because there is also remuneration that is commensurate to their level and disposition. So whatever they are giving, they are getting, right? I'm giving my energy, my time, my everything. I'm not sleeping. I'm trying to get a notes and material for my students. I'm trying to look at the way I can teach them. It's good, because there's a payment for it. So I just want to say, not just at the education level or the entry level, let it also be at the bigger level of employment, at the bigger level of the work level as well.
Well, I think I want to pick up from this angle. That entry level has been simplified. Does not mean you are going to scale through, just like, you are going to glide through all the years in the institution. I think it is going to be even more difficult to now study, because you got in there based on the fact that, the parameters, the requirements have been, simplified, so to speak. Then you just have to study it, because that does not guarantee you the access to glide through all the years in the institution. So it might not come as easy as people think. It will just, the only thing they want to do, that this will help them do, is to make sure that you get in quite simply. But then, when you get in there, you still have to do all the necessary things that you must do. And, another thing I want to quickly allude to is the fact that, when it comes to education, there's no better place to teach teachers than where teachers are to be taught. Okay, and that is where NC comes to place. If you look at in history, there used to be what we call, before the modern day JAMB and the likes, there used to be what we call the Teachers Training College, CTCs at the time. And there used to be a grade 3 teachers certificate, where once you have that, you can teach anywhere in the country. You will be regarded, in fact, if you come out in flying colors, you will be regarded as one of the best anywhere in the world. And then after that, there was an improvement, and they had the grade 2 teacher certificate, which also, was, of course, higher than the grade 3, and of course, definitely, it was widely acceptable at the time. And if you come out from that and graduate with that, definitely you'll get a job. In fact, jobs will be waiting for you once you are done. However, there were times where things had to change, where ACE came on board, which is the Associate Certificate in Education. Some advanced teaching training institutions later awarded Associate Certificate in Education, where after you are done with grade 2, you can go to some advanced institutions to just, put icing on the cake and, get a little bit more certification after that. However, in 1978, there came NCE, Nigeria Certificate in Education. Okay, I think that was where Nigeria lost it totally. I'm not saying people who actually got out of NCE did not have the qualities, but then I think they took their legs off the gas a little bit and became complacent when it comes to education in the country, and the rules were too relaxed. Nigeria started producing people weren't really interested in teaching. They were just there because they just had to. There was a time NC was treated as an option. Oh, before you go to the university, start, just go to NCE, and then there will be an opportunity for you to go through direct entry, and then you get into your institution. So when we had grade 3, grade 2, ACE, education was not treated as an option. It was what people practically went there because they wanted to. There were times in Nigeria where you ask people, what do you want to do for a living? I want to become a teacher. Do we still have people who will say that now? So eventually, just like we said earlier, people now got into university because education was now in the university. They would be shipped to education because they did not meet up with the requirements to probably study law, study some other courses, and then education is the next option. So they started pushing people there, not because they wanted to be there, but because that was the only option available. If you are not going to study education, then you have to wait for next year. And also, not because they did not meet up. In some cases, the institution probably met the quota, and then they still had some qualified candidates left. Instead of telling them to go home, they are shipped to study other courses. And I could remember recently someone mentioned the issue of scrapping some courses in the country, because at the end of the day, after studying those courses, you realize there was practically nothing you could do with it. And I made a joke somewhere when I called an event. I said, you should run. When anyone tells you you can work anywhere with this course you're about to study, I mean, just run, pick race, because it practically tells you that you have no career, you have nothing to do with it, you have to start all over again looking for what to do. And that brings you to the fact that after studying, you will now begin to look for skills. You will now begin to search from within what talent you have. You will now begin to look at the certificates that you might probably not be able to, use for anything. So it's really disheartening that we are here as a nation. In some countries till today, they still have people who would love to be a teacher because they know what I get paid at the end of the month is enough. You would compete with doctors, compete with lawyers. But quite unfortunately, we have so many institutions in Nigeria that can't even afford to pay teachers what is due to them. Look at some. I mean, it's really a gory sight when you watch how some private institutions are being run in the country. Take for example these private primary schools. I mean, some still pay as low as 15,000 naira to people. I mean, what do we expect them to do with that? And you will now complain that, oh, a student brought food from home and the teacher ate it. And you complain that the teacher took part of the money that was due to the pupil that came to school. So basically, what we have done is to demean teachers. We brought them to their knees. We brought them. I mean, it doesn't make sense anymore. But what can the government do to make this industry, I mean, this particular sector of the country to look more attractive to people, is to encourage people to get in there. And when you get in there, what exactly are the other things you can do? You can't just produce number of teachers and then there's nothing to give to them. Are there jobs waiting for them? Yes, there are jobs waiting for them. But is the government ready to employ them? I think it's a no. Because if you look at the education sector, I, for one, I have done this research over and over again. I have practically sampled people's opinion about what the education sector looks like in the country. I've been to schools in Ibadan here, where in a community, right, they had about 4 or 5 secondary schools, and there was only one English teacher. And that English teacher happened to be my friend at that time. So he would just from one school to the other to take them in English, all right? And at that time, I think that was during the era of Senator Isaac Abiola Ajimobi. There was something they called the PTA teachers. Yeah. Okay, they had them. What they do was to work hand in hand with staff teachers and then make sure that the teachers lacked nothing. So they were doing fine at that time, to some extent anyway, because there's never a time that we did so well in education in Nigeria. We just have to keep improving and improving. So another administration came on board. I don't really want to, go for that. They came on board and disbanded these PTA teachers. There was nothing like that again. And how were they paying these PTA teachers at that time? They were paying, each student was paying 1,000 naira per term, makes it 3,000 per session. Yes, makes it 3,000 per session. And then this is how some of these teachers were paid. And not even that they were being paid what was enough, but then they were happy doing it because they were filling the void that was left open by the government in the first place. And the moment these monies, the government said, oh, you are no longer paying a dime. You see, there is nothing, even in Freetown, there is nothing free. So if you want to run free education, you must be able to pump all the necessary funds into it. The government is not pumping enough funds, not recruiting enough teachers, but then you took away what was, what they saw as soccer in those schools at that time. You took that away. You took all the 3,000 that they were taking. I'm not saying it was right to pay actually, but what I'm saying in essence is that it was filling a gap that was left open. Now that was taken away, all these teachers, they were sent back to where they were coming from. Some of them had to go back to private primary, secondary schools. I mean, you can imagine what they will be going through working with there. But in the real sense of it, can the government now look in the area of, after so every year, because there is never a way, as you are recruiting, some people are retiring. Okay, there is never a way there will be no space to be filled. But you see that in some schools, in the last 7-8 years, there has never been a new teacher. And they keep transferring people from those schools. So who are the people you have been pushed to fill those gaps you are living in those schools? So we should look at how many teachers do we have. In some schools, it is only one teacher that takes English for all the classes, all the 6 of them. Only one teacher takes mathematics, all the classes. It's a no-brainer, because at the end of the day, this teacher burns out. He gives lesson notes to students, just copy. He explains maybe in 5 minutes and leaves the class, because he's doing way beyond what his capacity
and he's not being paid that much.
He's not being paid that much. So it is not reasonable. And I'm speaking to all the state governors right now. There used to be a time where primary schools were taken care of by local governments, right? And they were doing excellently well at that time, until some states, decided to take all the funds that belong to local governments and made it theirs. They wanted to take charge of everything. But hey, you see, most of the things we do, they are local, okay? These schools belong to local governments. They are in local governments, actually. If you talk about states, you really don't have a landmass, okay? You have to rely heavily on the local governments. Why not empower them and let them take care of things that you not even understand that is going on in your local government? So basically, the government should create a room for local governments to function. If they function, they will look at education, look at security, because every crime committed is also local. And if education fails, it boils down to what is going on in each and every local government, wards, units, and some other areas. So let's look at how we can make sure that once this new set of people that are being urged to study education, once they are done, let's look at areas where they will know and be sure that, there is a way I can actually get a job without being vilified, without having a godfather. Because we've seen situations where some people are even recruited and they had nothing to do with education, and they were given jobs. And you begin to question why these things are being done. You don't play politics with everything. Because, he belongs to APC, he has to get a job. So people should be given a level playing field to get jobs in the country, and that is one area the government should be looking at.
Well, I think it's also important. See, the whole thing I'm trying to look at is we have over 18 million out-of-school children in the country, and that's a very big situation that we must look at. And again, maybe the government they've come out to say that it's because of teacher shortages, and they've stated that as one of the challenges they're facing to bring up this policy. And I so agree with that. I really do agree with that with all my heart, that yes, we have teacher shortages. Like you also mentioned, the teacher taking so many courses, and you wonder how he's not going to be fagged out, how he's not going to have a brain drain. Of course, we cannot take that out. We need that to be more structured. We need more teachers, of course, but the way to go about it is why we are asking these questions and saying that I think many times we just do stuff when we because there are certain things that are underlying. There are certain things that must be done before some policies can work. You are bringing a roof to a house that does not have lintel. it's almost funny. Sometimes we need to put the necessary, everything is in layers, right? One layer after the other. If we just go from one layer to the third layer, we have omitted the second layer. And that's also one of the issues we have in the country, where we have policies because maybe someone discovered that, oh, this can work somewhere, and then now say, okay, so let's adopt it hook, line, and sinker without considering the peculiarity of the place we are adopting it to. And it begs a lot of questions to say, how sustainable are we in our thought process? And this is not just a policy can look so good, but how sustainable can it be? Those are one of the things we can put. So if anybody's bringing a policy, Dr. Tunji Alausa should be able to tell us, we are doing this for this period, and we are still going to put it under review for this period. If it doesn't work, then we'll go back to status quo. And it's just as easy as that. But we don't get those kind of things in policy making in the country. We just have someone say, this is what we want to do, and everybody begins to question, why should you do that? Why should you not do that? And so it becomes a thing. But how can we not stay and say, whenever we have policies, let's have it structured that this is going to run for this moment, and if it doesn't work, we'll still review it, and if it works, we'll continue. And it's just as easy, right? I know they're also talking about weak agricultural manpower, but hey, I tell you, this is 2026. If you look at countries that are doing well agriculturally, you will discover they are not just doing the menial things now. Mechanized farming is the major thing, right? And I'm trying to say that invest a lot of money into that sector. We need food security in the country. We have over 250 million people thereabout in the country, and we need to feed these people. How can we feed them? Agriculture must be at the center and the heart of every government in this country. And I think it's also important that not just say that we want to put a reform, but also important that you want to fund that system, fund that sector, make it more structured to say, oh yes, if we fund this, then we should expect this from the people, from the farmers. And then it may be a lot of better funding, improved learning quality, like I've also mentioned, and employment opportunities and sector reforms can really help us move ahead with this new policy. And I hope it works. I just keep my fingers crossed and see that it will work.
All right. I hope the government listens and then do the right thing at the end of the day. And that's a convenient place to leave that topic this morning. Let's help you plan your day and take weather report on the show this morning. Of course, we'll be starting with the ancient metropolitan city of Ibadan. This morning, the weather in Ibadan is currently partly cloudy at 29 degrees Celsius. There will be a slight increase to 30 degrees Celsius later in the morning, remaining partly cloudy with humidity at 40%. It will rise further to 34 degrees Celsius in the afternoon. It will be partly cloudy. Humidity climbs to 22%. But by evening, it drops to 27 degrees Celsius. It will be mostly clear, and humidity will also drop to 3%, while it will be partly cloudy overnight, and weather drops to 25 degrees Celsius, and humidity maintains 3% right here in the ancient city of Ibadan today.
And from Ibadan to Lagos, because they share borders, not so much of a difference between the two. 28 degrees Celsius is what the weather will be averagely. Partly cloudy across board, and in the morning 30 degrees Celsius is what it starts with, expected to be partly cloudy, and then it rises by 2 degrees Celsius in the afternoon to become 32 degrees Celsius, also going to remain partly cloudy. It will be mostly clear, dropping down to 29 degrees Celsius in the evening, and then overnight it drops much further by just 1 degree Celsius to 28 degrees Celsius to become partly cloudy at 5% humidity in Lagos today.
All right, away from Lagos, we take this one from Abeokuta in Ogun State. All right, right now in Abeokuta, weather is currently just like in Ibadan, partly cloudy, and it's at 31 degrees Celsius. It will maintain the same momentum later in the morning at 31 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, humidity at 2%. It will remain partly cloudy in the afternoon as it rises slightly to 34 degrees Celsius, and humidity climbs to 22%. It will be clear in the evening at 28 degrees Celsius, and humidity will be at 1%. And overnight, weather drops to 26 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, humidity at 3% in Abeokuta, Ogun State today.
And from Abeokuta, Ekiti Southwest is where I go, and it's just 1 degree Celsius different from Abeokuta. 25 degrees Celsius is going to be cloudy across the board, and in the morning 28 degrees Celsius expect to be mostly cloudy across many parts of Ekiti Southwest today. In the afternoon it rises by 4 degrees Celsius to 32 degrees Celsius to become partly cloudy, and then in the evening the weather will become mostly clear, dropping down to 25 degrees Celsius, and a further drop overnight of just 1 degree Celsius to become cloudy at 24 degrees Celsius in Ekiti Southwest today.
All right, away from Ekiti, let's take this from Port Harcourt, River State this morning. As we speak, in Port Harcourt, weather is currently at 23 degrees Celsius, and later in the morning it will rise by 4 degrees Celsius to 27 degrees Celsius with the promise of thunderstorms, and that's almost certain right there in Port Harcourt this morning. And later in the afternoon, weather rises slightly by a degree Celsius to 28 degrees Celsius with the promise of showers in Port Harcourt, and humidity will be at 42%. It will be mostly clear in the evening as it drops to 23 degrees Celsius and humidity also drops to 8%, while overnight it will be partly cloudy and there will be a slight drop to 21 degrees Celsius and humidity will be at 3% in Port Harcourt, River State today.
And from Port Harcourt now to Suleja, the largest state in the country, that's Niger State. 26 degrees Celsius is what the weather would look like, mostly cloudy across board. And in the morning, 30 degrees Celsius, expect to be partly cloudy at 5% humidity. And then in the afternoon, it rises to 35 degrees Celsius, rising 5 degrees Celsius to become partly cloudy. And then in the evening, it drops back to 29 degrees Celsius, dropping about 6 degrees Celsius to become clear. And overnight, a further drop of 30 degrees Celsius to 26 degrees Celsius, also expected to be mostly clear in Suleja, Niger State today.
All right, away from Suleja, we'll take this one also from the North Central, and that is the FCT, Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, this morning. As we speak, weather is currently at 25 degrees Celsius, and later in the morning to rise by 4 degrees Celsius to 29 degrees Celsius. It will be partly cloudy and humidity will be at 6% right there in Abuja. It will remain partly cloudy in the afternoon as it rises to 35 degrees Celsius, and there will be zero chance of humidity right there in Abuja. It will be clear in the evening as weather drops to 29 degrees Celsius, going back to what it was later in the morning, and of course it will be clear and the humidity will be at 2%. It will be mostly clear overnight as there will be a drop to 25 degrees Celsius and humidity will be at 1% right there in Abuja, the FCT today.
And as usual, it's going to be quite sunny in Maiduguri, Borno State today. Of course, the weather is going to be on the high side. Morning, 37 degrees Celsius is what it starts with. Expect to be very, very sunny at 0% humidity across board. And in the afternoon, they further rise to 42 degrees Celsius, increase of about 5 degrees Celsius to still remain very sunny. But then in the evening, the weather will become calm and clear. 32 degrees Celsius, and of course it drops further to 27 degrees Celsius overnight to become clear as well in Maiduguri, Borno State today.
Right, lastly on weather report this morning, let's take this one from Kano. Right, as we speak, weather in Kano is currently at 26 degrees Celsius. It is quite sunny as early as it is, and later in the morning it will remain sunny as it rises to 34 degrees Celsius. That will be a sharp rise to 34 degrees Celsius with zero chance of humidity. And of course, it will remain sunny in the afternoon, and it will be weather will be at 41 degrees Celsius, zero chance of humidity right there. And in the evening and overnight, weather will be clear at 31 degrees Celsius and 25 degrees Celsius respectively, with zero chance of humidity right there in Kano today. And that's all we can take on weather report this morning. We say thank you for being a part of the show so far, and do well to link up with us on all socials: Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X, formerly Twitter, at Dominion Cast. You can watch us live on our website at www.dominion.org.ng, dominion.org.ng. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Dominion Broadcast and Facebook at Dominion Broadcast Television. We'll go on a quick break now, and when we return, it is time to take Daybreak News. We'll be back.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB Van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live? Like never before. Book the OB Van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
Hello and welcome to Daybreak News on Dominion Television. I am Anuluakpo Idowu. President Bola Tinubu has approved the appointment of retired Major General Adeyinka Fadewa as Special Advisor on Homeland Security. The appointment was announced in a statement signed by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume. The presidency stated that the move is aimed at strengthening internal security coordination, improving intelligence-led operations, and enhancing collaboration among security agencies to tackle emerging threats across the country. The federal government, in partnership with the European Union and the World Health Organization, has launched a €4.2 million initiative to strengthen Nigeria's disease outbreak detection and response system. The 4-year program, unveiled in Abuja, is aimed at improving early detection of outbreaks, boosting information sharing, and strengthening public health institutions across the country. Minister of State for Health and Social Welfare, Isiaq Salako, described the initiative as a major boost to Nigeria's healthcare system, noting that it aligns with the federal government's commitment to improving healthcare delivery, especially for vulnerable populations. The federal government has warned tertiary institutions against conducting admissions outside the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board Central Admissions Processing System, declaring such admissions illegal. The Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, gave the warning at the 2026 policy meeting on admissions held in Abuja. He stated that institutions operating parallel admission processes will no longer be recognized, stressing that the integrity of the admission system is vital to restoring confidence in Nigeria's tertiary education sector. The minister added that the enforcement drive is aimed at restoring order and credibility, not punishing institutions. In the same vein, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, and other stakeholders have announced deadlines for the completion of the 2025-2026 admission exercise for tertiary institutions across Nigeria. The decision was reached at the 2026 JAMB annual policy meeting on admissions held in Abuja under the new timeline. Public universities are to conclude admissions on or before October 31st, 2026, while private universities have until November 30th, 2026. Polytechnics, modern techniques, and colleges of education are expected to complete their admission processes by December 31st, 2026. Despite ongoing conversations around gender equality and inclusion, women remain underrepresented in political offices across Nigeria and many parts of the world. Stakeholders say cultural barriers, limited support, and financial challenges continue to discourage many women from participating actively in governance. Our correspondent, Damlola Daudu, reports.
Across different sectors of society, women continue to make remarkable contribution in leadership, business, education, and community development. Yet, when it comes to politics and decision-making positions, their presence remains noticeably low. Despite increasing advocacy for gender inclusion and equal representation, many women are still struggling to secure opportunities and visibility within the political space. While more women are showing interest in government, societal attitudes and long-standing stereotypes continue to limit their participation in politics. In an interview with Dominion News, Barrister Toju Ikime and Olajumoke Caston Martins point to financial constraints, political intimidation, and lack of support for political structures as some of the major challenges women face in politics. They both noted that balancing family responsibility with the demand of political activities also discourage many women from contesting for political offices.
The take on it is that until women should fight for it, it is not going to fall on our laps. On paper, sometimes you hear 35% available seats for women. They are just saying it on paper. Practically, no man in the National Assembly or State Office of Assembly will vote themselves out so that women can come in. What we have to do as women is to fight for it, go to the grassroots, encourage women to be more involved in politics, and then let us put structures in place.
That we need to begin to change our perception of women in politics. Several times I would have conversations with people around politics and they stigmatize women who participate in politics, maybe because of the fact that it requires late nights, it requires several meetings, and so somehow people expect that it's difficult to balance both family life and politics. However, it is participation in politics that would help us save our family life. And
in addition, the duo stressed the need for stronger policies that promote gender inclusion and equal opportunities in government.
We must change that narrative. We must begin to talk about politics with our women. I mean, growing up, it wasn't a fun thing for women to discuss politics, but now it has become increasing, more women talk about politics now.
They recommend mentorship programs, financial support, voters' education, and the enforcement of inclusive political policies to encourage more women to take part in leadership and decision-making processes. Damilola Daudu reporting for Dominion News.
Moving on, a socio-political group or Your Political Equity Forum has accused Governor Seyi Makinde of failing to honor an alleged agreement to support a Muslim successor in the 2027 governorship election. Speaking in Ibadan, the group's coordinator, Rafiu Akinwale, claimed the understanding was reached during the meeting with religious leaders in Ogbomoso before the governor's re-election. According to the forum, the demand is based on fairness and political balance rather than religious sentiment, warning that failure to honor the alleged agreement could create discontent among stakeholders in the state. And in business, the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) has warned state governors that unpredictable fiscal policies could undermine efforts to achieve price stability under Nigeria's inflation targeting framework. Speaking during an engagement with the Nigeria Governors Forum, CBN Deputy Governor Mohammed Abdullahi said poor coordination and expansionary spending by state could weaken monetary policy measures aimed at controlling inflation. He identified borrowing patterns, rising debt, spending behavior, salary obligations, and weak fiscal coordination as major factors influencing inflation at the subnational level. The Apex Bank stressed that effective inflation control requires stronger collaboration between federal and state government. And in sports, David Fitzdale has reportedly been appointed head coach of Nigeria's men's basketball team ahead of the 2028 Olympic Games. The 51-year-old previously served as head coach of the New York Knicks and Memphis Grizzlies and also worked as an assistant coach with the Miami Heat under Eric Spoelstra. Fitzdale currently works as an analyst for NBA TV after most recently serving on the coaching staff of the Phoenix Suns during the 2024-2025 season. His appointment is expected to boost Nigeria's preparations for future international competitions, including the 2028 Olympics. And that's about it on Daybreak News. You can visit our website on www.dominion.org.ng to watch us live and interact with us. You can also follow us across our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Dominion Broadcast, and next at Dominion Cast. And that ends Daybreak News on Dominion Television. I am Anuluakpo Ido. Thank you for watching.
Need a professional space to bring your vision to life? Dominion Television Studios offers state-of-the-art facilities perfect for your next broadcast, commercial, corporate video, or live event. With flexible rental options, cutting-edge equipment, and a supportive team, we provide the perfect environment for high-quality productions. Unleash your creativity. For bookings, email us at marketing@dominion.org.ng. Call us on 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast and on X at Dominion Cast. Book your space today. Dominion Television, your channel of choice.
Tick, 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 the time is ticking, and that's for the politicians to do what is right by whatever they claim to support or believe in. Actually, that's one of the conversations we're having on this segment of the program, Newspaper Headlines and Analysis, where we check into the print and bring stories that are breaking and developing across the newspapers this morning of interest and political issues. And one of them is about Governor Seyi Makinde, but not just him, but every political actor is trying to make a sound. Everybody's trying to do something to be recognized or to be relevant. But that's exactly what we have across the newspapers. But we'll take Atiku first. Atiku attacks NDC over zoning of presidential ticket to South, and that's on the Nation newspaper this morning. That's the biggest caption, the boldest caption on the Nation newspaper this morning about Atiku, attacking NDC over zoning of presidential ticket to South. The zoning has been a conversation, especially across parties. Remember, of course, party divides. The PDP had the issue with zoning, and some other parties are also having, but it seems Atiku is not having it with NDC. But that's its take about that. Moving on from that, Uzodinma Bagudu to diplomat. Tinubu's policies rebooted economy. That's also on the top corner, the left corner of the Nation newspaper this morning. And sitting right at the center is Makinde, now our member, says APM Board of Trustees chairman. That's exactly another interesting conversation we would say come 2027, because there's a lot of movements and alignment. Is this one of them? Maybe. time will tell. Meanwhile, committee, why we disqualified 56 Rivers Assembly aspirant, that's also a big one right there. The Rivers of Crisis situation just a couple of days, and also yesterday there were claims that some people that were said to be loyal to the FCT minister, the former governor of the state, Nyesom Wike, were actually given, a nod, while other ones that belong to another faction of, say, the current governor, Similai Fuvara, had to get whatever you call that. But that's the case, right, in Rivers politics now. There's a lot of conversations around when we thought everything was gone, when we thought there was now peace after the storm, there was now calm after the storm. It seems to be another troubled waters or troubled rivers, they say. But whichever the case is, that's one story coming from Rivers State this morning. Moving on from Rivers now to take some other stories making the rounds. Tinubu in Kenya for France-Africa Economic Cooperation meeting. And I'll tell you one thing, if you saw that particular situation, there's plot to destabilize PGF ahead of 2027 elections. So yes, I saw a video yesterday where the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, had to step in when some persons were giving a speech. And then he went on to say, it is unacceptable for you to make this much noise while we're having people who are talking about their culture, we're talking about things that can help the bilateral relations we're trying to build to work. And then it was quite applauded by a lot of people. You needed to see the video. I saw it and I was excited to say, yes, this is a leader that can call for quiet, that can call for calm in the hall. While there was a meeting, some persons were busy dilly-dallying, talking, gallivanting. And he said, you know what, please, can you give me the mic? And then he took the mic from whoever was talking at the time. And then he said, you know what, guys, you need to listen to these people. And I think I love that for one for leadership. It tells that, yes, they are not just willing to build something with Africa, but they're also ready to make people understand that these people are working for the better good of the African continent, and as well as every other person that was there. Of course, William Ruto of Kenya, President Tinubu was there as well, and a lot of people, delegates, important personalities across the continent and even far beyond came to that gathering. And it was it was a beautiful one, I'm just hoping that the best will come out of this summit, and we hope that every other summit that will be attended by the president in Rwanda and every other place that he would attend would make a lot of sense and would trickle down to benefit the country and make the country progress. And that's on the one side. While on the other hand, we still know that the president will still move to some other issues, and is set to meet with a lot of business expatriates, leaders of the economy across the world. And we hope that the reform would help the country get reformed in that sense. Now, moving on from that as well, Adeleke dethrones Osun monarch jailed for COVID-19 fraud in the U.S. Unfortunate, but that's one of the story you might want to find out right on the Nation newspaper, the down part of the story of the paper. This one, it says, Adeleke dethrones Osun monarch jailed for COVID-19 fraud in the U.S. Perhaps this is the conversation. Meanwhile, the last story I take from the Nation newspaper says, no more UTME for College of Education applicant. That's the big one. It's like you're ringing a bell. Bang, 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 bang. No more UTME for College of Education applicants. So what do they have is the next question. Perhaps some are saying, well, it's a good development, but what then would they write? Will it be as standard as JAMB? But you know what? Time will tell. I'll take a swipe from the Nation now to the Punch newspaper for want of time to see what the Punch has on its front page this morning. Federal government, World Bank in talks over second largest $1.25 billion loan. That's the big one right there. I had to call it emphatically because that is a lot of money. It is like an epoch making money. You don't want to just glide over this amount of money. Federal government, the World Bank in talks over second largest $1.25 billion loan. That is a lot of money. But some have said there's no issue, like the president also said that there's no issue, it's not a disease to borrow money. But the question would be, will this money be used for what it's meant to be used for? Some have even said, don't borrow money for charity. Don't borrow money because you want to give it out. Borrow money because you want to invest it, because that's the way to get your return on investment and be able to service the loans on the debt that we are borrowing over the years. And that seems to be like the conversation also on the economic side of things. We hope that this administration will not just borrow the money, but they will also use the money for the right things they intend to use it for. And we also will call to question if that money has not been allocated for what it was meant to. And we would not stop talking as Nigerians, because it's one of our rights to say and to call people to question, to call authority to book, and to say you have to do what you promised, you have to do what you claim to do, what you said you were going to do when you were campaigning. That was one of the promises you made, and he will not let you go outside without doing what is right by the people. And that's one of the conversations. Meanwhile, on the top corner of the Punch newspaper lies the story: NNPC, NUPRC remit $322 billion naira. That's about $116.9 million after Tinubu order. That seems like a development right there, if you would agree with me, that NNPC and NUPRC remitted about 322 billion naira, about $116.9 million after Tinubu order. That's a good one, right? Let's have accountability. Let it be as clear to everybody as possible. Meanwhile, coup plotters reached out for spiritual cover. That, of course, we've taken this story before. That's according to a cleric who said the coup plotters, one of them actually came for spiritual matters, not just he didn't give him money, he didn't give him 10 million because of any other thing. It was basically to pray to get promotion. What promotion? Maybe the promotion is about the coup or dethroning or usurping authority or usurping the presidency to become the leader. Perhaps that's what he meant, but we can't tell. Meanwhile, taking the story from the outside community, and this is ISIS moves operations to West Africa. That's a warning from the United States coming right now, that ISIS moves operations to West Africa. That's coming from the US, warning, giving a stern warning right there. And something for everybody to look out for. The government should be ready to be prepared for this, to make sure that we do not have what we are currently having in particularly in the West African region, in Nigeria and maybe Chad and some other places across the continent. But that's the conversation right there. But the presidency issue also on the Punch newspaper is about Atiku's Northern Ticket campaign faces resistance. That's the story about 2027 presidency. Atiku's Northern Ticket campaign faces resistance. That is a story I want to check out on page 8 or page 2 of the Punch newspaper this morning. Tinubu governors eulogize fast surety at 100. That's on page 12 of the Punch newspaper as well. A story I want to check out this morning. 17 foreigners rescued in Lagos anti-trafficking operation. Also a story I want to check out. Taking economy across the regions of the world. Oil hits $104 as US-Iran peace deal fails. Many other things to go about Rivers Assembly as well. Fubara loyalists reject APC screening report, and many other things still to go around across in the world today. Of course, we know that many things are happening, especially about the global oil price, and even at the national level, we have issues and different issues. But of course, for want of time, we have to shove these particular segment and move on to the next segment, which is the big story with Samson Baluk. But I will be shortly after this break. Stay with us.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime. From stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB Van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live like never before? Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
Good morning and welcome to The Big Story on Daybreak Live, where we spotlight the issues shaping the future of our nation. Today we are discussing a matter that directly affects Nigeria's future: education or abandonment, tackling the menace of out-of-school children in Nigeria. Across the country, millions of children who should be in classrooms are instead found on the streets, in markets, workshops, and motor parks in some cases. While education remains a basic right, many Nigerian children are still denied access to quality learning opportunities. The growing number of out-of-school children has become not only an educational concern, but also a social and security challenge. And joining us this morning to examine this issue is Alhaji Iskil Yusuf, a former controller of prisons and founder, executive director of Child Development and Concern Foundation, CDCF. All right, Alhaji Yusuf, thank you for joining us in the studio this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
There's a lot to discuss.
There are lots to discuss.
I'll be back shortly.
Okay.
Samson Balogun is my own name, and thank you for being a part of the show so far. Now, Nigeria continues to battle one of the highest numbers of out-of-school children in the world. And according to UNICEF, over 10 million primary school-age children are currently out of school, while the figure rises significantly when secondary school children are included. These numbers reflect children whose futures are threatened by poverty, child labor, insecurity, and social neglect. Insecurity in part of the country, especially in the northern Nigeria, has worsened the situation, with attacks on schools discouraging many parents from sending their children to school. Even in states like Oyo, many children are still outside the classroom due to poverty, migration, and inadequate support system. And over the years, governments at both federal and state levels have introduced policies aimed at reducing the crisis. These include the Universal Basic Education Program, school feeding initiatives, teacher recruitment, school rehabilitation projects, and partnerships with UNICEF and other agencies to improve access to education. Despite these efforts, many stakeholders believe much more still needs to be done, particularly in rural communities where children continue to roam the streets during school hours. Today's discussion therefore raises critical questions. Why do millions of children remain out of school despite various interventions? Are parents, communities, and leaders doing enough? And what practical steps can Nigeria take to reduce or secure the future of its children through education. These are some of the issues we shall be discussing with our guest this morning, Alhaji Eskil Yusuf. Good to have you in the studio.
Thank you so much for having me, Samson. It's nice to be here.
Thank you, sir, for joining us this morning.
All right.
Let's talk about out-of-school children.
Right.
Because that's an area you are focused on.
Yes.
And when we talk about Nigeria as a country, Nigeria has one of the highest numbers of out-of-school children across the world.
Yes.
Why do we have it so in Nigeria? And what exactly is the problem?
The major reason why we have is that our leaders are not interested in education. They don't want to educate people.
But they keep building schools. If you said they are not interested in education, we have
building schools is just a part of it. And even the structures they are building, how adequate is it for learning and teaching? So those are issues. Our leaders are not interested in giving quality education to our children. And you see, like they have succeeded in weaponizing poverty, begging them for dirty things, little things, to vote for them. So they want to weaponize illiteracy too. And as a matter of fact, weaponizing illiteracy, making sure that people are illiterate, remain illiterate. That's why poverty is rising. Because education is supposed to eradicate poverty. Where education is not properly established, it's not given the right attention, it's not given the right priority, we continue to have this problem of poverty. And a nation that continues to live in poverty, despite its years of independence, it remains undeveloped. Many people are saying that Nigeria is a failed nation. I think I have cause to believe that.
Some consider Nigeria as the poverty capital of the world.
It's almost a fact. Though I have not carried out I cannot substantiate, but it's not far from being the truth. We are a nation that will continue to see the past as past have been better than today. It does not mean we are developing. It does not mean we are progressing. That's the sign that our leaders are not focused in education. Where education is not given priority, then this is what we continue to have. Illiteracy is said to be a disease. How do you eliminate the disease? It's by giving right education, quality education to people. And it's not just giving education to people, letting them to go to school. Education must include moral teaching, moral training, well-groomed children from the kindergarten stage, which is the foundation. But that is not being given priority. I thank God that our public schools are now having kindergarten classes now. But how functional are they? It's just like they are just being kept there just to raise the population of those who are in schools. But even the number of those who are in schools is not does not meet the required level of standard that should be. For instance, right now, it is said by those who have carried out the survey, 65 million Nigerians are still illiterates. 65 million Nigerians are illiterates, completely illiterate. Of course, when you talk of that 65 million, most of them will be women. And where women are not properly educated, of course, it has effect on the children. Home is the first school for the children. And the mother is the closest person to the children. Where the mother is not well educated, of course, what do you expect her to give to the children?
Now, you have spoken, we have several reasons why we could have children out of school.
Right.
And that includes poverty.
Poverty, yes. Mentioned. Government not giving priority to education. Yes.
Some people have also talked about insecurity, especially in the northern part of Nigeria. And how much of that how much of this crisis can be linked to insecurity?
Of course, where there is no proper education, no quality education, insecurity is a manifestation
of... It's a snowball.
It's a snowball.
It moves from one to the other.
To the other.
And if one is not stopped, it keeps bringing
It keeps bringing others. Of course, where people are not well educated, what do you expect them to become? Because they will be jobless. Because they don't have the skill to do any serious job. Where they remain jobless, what do you expect them to go into? Into crime. And criminality is a thing that develops from small level. It graduates and it goes on like that. And I always say, because I work with children directly, and I love working with, and I'm so happy. That's why I'm happy you have me here this morning to discuss about this issue of out of. Is it delinquency starts from mere getting late to the school. Children getting late to the school. The parents are not taking care of that. If the school is the type that is also not nonchalant about lateness to school, then that child will continue to develop that attitude and grow with it. And you know, by the time such children grow into getting a job, that will be the attitude. They will not believe in doing things properly. Lateness to school, absent from school, and of course, that is the genesis of dropping out of school. And where we are having out of school children.
So do you think communities, religious leaders, schools are doing enough to nip this in the bud?
They are not. No institution in the society is doing what is expected of it to make sure that these children are properly educated. Look at the parents. Some of them, most of them are working class. They leave early in the morning for their places of work. Even those who are doing private job, those who are trading, they leave early in the morning, leave the children at home. Okay, make sure you go to school. Make sure that's your food. This is your money to transport you to the school. And they believe they have done enough.
And they are even leaving some of these children to their older siblings that are not even in.
They are not even. They don't have the knowledge of managing their younger siblings. Leaving them to me, that's irresponsibility. That's why I say all the social institutions, the family, the religious body, the political class, and the rest, they are not helping the situation. And you know, like, though I must say this, there's nowhere in the world where government does it alone. It requires the support of all these social institutions, the family, organizations, corporate and individual organizations, to really support government, particularly in the area of education. In the area of education, I always appeal to people, go to public schools. Go to public schools. I'm telling you, if you go there this morning, go and pick out some public schools.
At random.
Find out at random, pick out the number of children that have books. You can't have nothing less than 80% that do not have one single textbook. Even some don't even have exercise books with which to write the instructions from the teachers.
And they come to class.
When they come to class. And it's just like our elders' proverb, which says, òun lọ sóko, o mọ̀kọ́ dání, o má dá dání, kí ló lọ ṣe? Ó ṣeré lọ síbẹ̀ ni.
So, as someone that works closely with children,
right?
What are the dangers of leaving millions of Nigerian children without access to basic education?
The danger is what we are. Insecurity is one of them. It's now we are living with. We don't know when we are going to get over it. There is no sign that we will get over on daily basis. Even right here in Ibadan, kidnappers are operating, kidnapping people. It has become a very lucrative business now, and no effort is being made. And there are facts even from the leaders, from the political leaders, that some of them are behind this insecurity problem. Some of them are giving support to the bandits. And if you know it, you have said it, because you as a sensible person, you should not say what you don't have facts about. If you have facts about that, bring them out, fish them out, and let's deal with them. Let the law takes care of them. But has there been anyone that is brought forward for so insecurity is one of the manifestations of.
Now let's digress a little bit. You also at one point you were controller of prisons,
right? Yes.
And you had to deal with some people who are judged to be criminals,
right?
And some who were still awaiting trials.
Yes.
You heard their stories.
Yes.
How much of that did you see as the effect of the neglect we have in our society?
What do you want to gain from it?
What do you intend to achieve with that?
What I want to achieve, what do you want to gain from it?
What do you intend to achieve with that?
What I want to achieve with it is that, you see, the major problem with correctional centers we have is congestion. And when you in a congested correctional centers, you cannot have correction. You cannot reform
proper
the offender.
Correction.
You cannot reform the offender because all different categories of offenders are put together, and there will be influence of one on the other. In a good correctional center, the inmates must be properly classified, either in terms of their age, in terms of their offenses, crimes they committed. And because when you put people who committed violent crimes with those who committed civil offenses, what do you expect?
There'll be a level of influence.
Influence on them. And with the situation we have where trial is always delayed. So they have the opportunity of interacting, and by the time they know that they are here and they have other sources of criminality which they can explore to make
by the time
life,
they
get out and
venture into full-scale
they put themselves into it. So there must be proper classification, and that's why I'm interested in this state government establishing correctional service, because that's another topic for discussion. It's another topic for discussion.
I'll bring you back here to talk about
I would love to be here to discuss about that, because I'm very passionate about correctional service.
That seems
I
like
worked there for 35 years, and I left the place 19 years ago, like I earlier said. Still thinking about the service. Even last week, one of the deputy controller generals of prison, who was my boy when I was in the service, came to me just to say hello to me, and we discussed at length. Many things are still going on there, which
it's a kind of war.
It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing and where that institution is not given the right opportunity to carry out its function of reformation, rehabilitation, and reintegration, of course we're in trouble. Because when inmates come out, offenders come out of the prisons, they come worse than what will they be doing? They become threat to the society.
Okay, let's come back a little bit, because we'll talk about that some other time.
I would love to be here for that.
Well, we have seen some children during school hours engaging in survival activities, child labor, hawking. Some of them are learning trades.
Right.
And you begin to
wonder. Even their learning trade is even good.
If you look at that quite well, you will understand that it's a lot to handle, especially for individuals, some parents in some cases. So what does that say about our society?
It shows, like I earlier said, government is not giving education priority. It decides priority.
What do you think the government should have done in the first place? Because we have seen situations where government introduced some policies, especially like the UBEC,
Universal Basic Education Policy.
Yes. We also had something like, recently we are seeing something like BESDA and some other things like that introduced to make sure that education has a strong footing in Nigeria.
It is, they love to say it, but they cannot. They don't have the political will to implement them. Look at Universal Basic Education of 2004. It clearly states that all children of school-going age must go to school, free and compulsory. That is what he said.
That was also part of the MDGs, Millennium Development Goals.
Yes. Our own policy, national policy, Universal Basic Education policy says education. Children of school going must have access to quality education, free of charge. Government sees these children roaming about the streets during school hours. Nothing is done. What has been done since then? Since 2004? Which child has been arrested for not going to school?
There used to be a time in the early 90s, if a child is found roaming about during school hours, someone takes you to your school or take you to your parents and say, what exactly is this child doing outside at this time?
I belong to a network body, Child Protection Network. We do that one religiously. At times, but we have to be scared, because these kidnappers that are now in the street, when you see a child that is not your relation, you pick him or her, you want to take him or her to school. If the child shouts, kidnapper,
the story can change quickly.
His story will just change. Before people listen to you, damages must have been done. So that's why we have to be careful. But we've been appealing to the Ministry of Women Affairs that if they want to allow us to really carry out this operation, we need to have the backing of security personnel. We go out to the streets, we go out to the market, we go out to the motor parks, pick these children, get them put in a secluded place. There we will trace their parents to come and discuss with them. We are not inviting them to be punished. To discuss with them on how to really ensure that these children does not roam about the streets. They must be in school. That is not being done, in spite of the Universal Basic Education policy. So which shows the government does not, they have brilliant ideas, they have good ideas, but to implement them, when they sit down at their so-called assembly and they discuss issues, they come out with policy that it will look good, But to implement them, it will look good on paper.
Now, let's talk about situations where the government introduced some icings on the cake to make sure that education becomes attractive. There was a time there was school feeding.
School feeding program. Thank you for bringing that.
A lot of things were done, but they seem to have failed. Because now nobody talks about school feeding that was introduced during the Buhari administration. Even before now, it happened in the past anyway. It was reintroduced by the Buhari administration.
Yes.
And the moment that administration touched down, it ended. Then nobody is talking about school feeding anymore.
Yes, it's one of the aspects that can really reduce, if it cannot totally eliminate, the cases of out-of-school children. And I have had the opportunity through one of the other networks which I belong, SACEFA, Civil Society Coalition on Education for All. We met with the management of SUBEB about 3, 4, 5 weeks ago to discuss, and we raised that point. You know, the reason is that school feeding program is a federal government project, and it has been stopped. You know, the corruption that went with it during the former Minister of Humanitarian Service. The case is still on now. And you know, glaring cases of corruption. The woman went to went to give food to children during the holidays. What sense is in that? So, but when we discussed, we raised the issue with the management of SUBEB. They say it's a federal government policy. But look, why can't you, if the federal government is not implementing it again, and it is in our interest to really have it done, implemented to ensure good education to ensure that our children don't stay away from school, why not take it up? After all, it's going to be benefited by our citizens, our children.
Now, let's talk about Oyo State specifically.
All right.
How would you rate Oyo State government's efforts when it comes to mitigating these cases of out-of-school children we have?
They are just playing about with the game. For instance, recently, they came out with the policy.
So they are playing the blame game?
Yes.
With the federal government?
No, they on the school feeding thing, they put the blame on the federal government. But I said, look, if the federal government is not doing it, they are doing it for the benefit of our children.
We had that in the old Western region.
We had it. You see,
during the time of
what gives me concern most about this level of out-of-school.
And Oyo State was the capital at that time.
Thank you so much. In fact, you are reading my mind. Let me tell you, why I'm so much concerned about it is that even in the southwest, Oyo State has the largest number of out-of-school children. Oyo State, which is the nucleus of the old Western region, where free education started, is having the largest number of out-of-school children in the whole of southwest. Almost 700,000 children are out of schools in Oyo State. It's an embarrassment. It's a place that is saddled with the responsibility of managing education, and we have causes to really show that we have evidence that education really was beneficial to us.
So all politicians do the Awolowo sign. Does that mean they learned nothing from Awolowo himself?
They only want to use Papa's name to really get elected. That is it. Look at a state where the first television station in Africa started.
The city of the first.
Where the first university started. The first teaching hospital started in Ibadan.
UCA.
The first high-rise building, 25 story of our cocoa house, started in Ibadan. It's a manifestation of quality education that those who are there then displayed. But where are those things now? Look at all the things that is going on. Even within their political system, they are having problems. They cannot even manage their own political parties.
How much more
managing a whole nation? How much more managing a nation? You see, they don't have what it takes to really manage this country, as far as I'm concerned. And why I have to say this is because they don't have quality education. What do I mean by quality education? I always love to refer
Most of them benefited from free education.
They benefited from
that time.
But the education, quality education does not impart in them. Let me tell you the reason. I came across one of the sayings of this man, Martin Luther King Jr. How did he define? He said, true education entails intelligence plus character. Where you are intelligent, you don't have good character, it means you are not truly educated. And somebody who is morally upright, who has good character, does not go to school, does not have good education, is also not truly educated. You must have intelligence and good character. Imagine what we are witnessing now. Imagine which institutions is functioning by this leader. Look at electricity. Look at NMPC. It's not functioning. For many years, it has been there, moribund, and spending money on it, wasting money on it, and government borrowing money here and there. We don't see what the money is used for. It does not show they have something upstairs.
Okay, now let me ask you this. Some people have talked about religious sentiment as one of the major reasons why some people are discouraged to have Western education, and in some parts of the country. They say that is why some of these out-of-school children, I mean, that religion actually plays a role. Are you of the same school of thought?
I don't believe in it. Though I'm sure probably those who are saying that they are referring to this group of Almanjiris. And, you know, if government has the will to ensure everybody is educated, there are ways to go about it. What led children from going out of school? Because of poverty. Their parents don't have the required funds to feed them. Where they don't have what it takes to feed them, they throw them on the streets, go and beg for money. So that by the time they go, they are able to raise, maybe at the end of the day, they are able to raise 1,000 or 2,000. They bring it home to the parents, and then we choose to, what are they going to do? And if they are able to do it successfully one day, to get as much as 2,000, which will be a big money to them, they will continue to do it. They will be encouraged to do it. It's not a matter of religion. If all religious activities are guided by law, as government has policy that guides religious activities, and where religious bodies are doing something against government policy, then they have to put them right.
Okay, now the girl-child gap has been something people have talked about a lot of times. Right. We have seen situations where the girl child are not given equal opportunity, just like the boy child will be given in some places. And what do you think can be done to make parents, insist on giving their daughters adequate education, just like they will give their male children?
Yes, when we are talking of vulnerability, children are the most vulnerable group in the society. Children are the most vulnerable group. Within the group of children, girl child is more vulnerable than boy child. So that's why that problem is there. Those parents that do not want to give good education to their children who are girls is because of their own level of education too. And which is the genesis of the problem, which will have been corrected. In those days, we used to have adult literacy classes where parents, maybe after their trading businesses, they resort to one place, one school, where there are staff to really manage them on how to read and write, just to read and write. And in the process of teaching them how to read and write, they will be educating them on the importance of education, that their children must be allowed to have good education in their own best interest, because these children will be their source of comfort in future. And where you fail to take good care of them, then you are injuring yourself. By the time you get to old age and you don't have good children to take care of you, then you have created the problem for yourself. So if they are properly sensitized and government backs it up with appropriate action from government machinery, they have no choice.
Let's talk about your foundation.
All right, thank you.
What made you pick interest in having a foundation that attends to issues of out-of-school children?
Thank you so much. You see, when I left the service in 2007, good enough when I was in service, I worked with an institution within the correctional service, which we call Postal Institution. It's a place for young offenders. Children are put there, those who committed one offense against their parents, or within the community, they are discovered, they are taken to juvenile court. We call it those days, it's now welfare court. It's now family court. So I work with them closely. I work in the institution, in two of the institutions, in fact, Abeokuta and Ilorin. In fact, I was the pioneer officer in charge of that of Ilorin. I discovered that these children are just labeled delinquents because of the negligence of their parents, and of course the society at large. Because our forefathers used to say, four eyes will give birth to children, but several eyes will have to take care of them. Ojú mẹ́rin ló ń bímọ, àìmọye ojú ló máa tọ́jú wọn. So you don't have to overlook the misbehavior of any child, even if it's not your biological child. So that's why when I retired, I said, look, please let me focus on it, and I want to do that one for the rest of my life. And I thank God the little successes we are recording.
So how far have you come?
Yes, I decided to go to Ministry of Education and Subeb to ask for permission to adopt some schools. I adopted 6 secondary schools, public secondary schools. But when we are talking of indigent children, you find them in public schools. You cannot, no indigent child will be in a fee-paying school. No matter how grossly inadequate that private school may be. If you choose to pay even 1,000 naira because of your child in a public school, rather than going to, a private school, rather than going to public school, it means you are comfortable. Because public school is there free of charge. Thank God to Seyi Makide's policy of no payment for anything. But, so I decided to adopt 6 public secondary schools and 7 public primary schools, where I picked the beneficiary of my program. Indigent but brilliant children. If I discover that before I started it, that was when I carried out a survey on the availability of books for these children. Then I realized that what I would do is, all the indigent children selected, whom I identified to be brilliant, I have to be giving them books every year. And I thank God we've been doing it since 2013.
How have you handled funding?
Yes, I source for funding from my friends and well-wishers. I go about telling them, look, give support. I introduce a program, adopt a school child.
Okay.
One person, take a child. If you have resources to take more than one child, good for you. And right now, I have a person sponsoring 15 children. 15 children. I have some taking 1, I have some taking 2, and that is just the way. And I thank God it is, we are getting good results. Is it becoming
more acceptable now?
It's becoming more acceptable. Many people are interested, and some of these are children whom we pick from elementary school, from primary schools. They are now in higher institutions. Yesterday, I have one of the beneficiaries of my program who was given admission to School of Nursing, which is just affiliated to University of Ibadan. The girl is from poor homes. She lost her father when she was 5 months old. The poor mother took care of her till she completed her secondary education. She came to our office and then asked for support. We succeeded in sending her to, just to keep her busy, we succeeded in getting her to this college at Igbora, College of Agric and Technology. And the girl did well. We are impressed by her performance. She passed out with distinction. So now she has been offered admission to School of Nursing at UCH.
Do you plan to extend your program to higher institutions?
We decide to expand because the performance of some of these children are so impressive. Even their sponsors.
That you don't want to stop at secondary school level.
Even not that we don't want to stop. Their sponsors, those who sponsor them from primary school they say, this child is performing well. If they secure admission to higher institution, they are ready to continue with them. And we have them. We have some of them, about 4 or 5 of them in University of Ibadan. One studying pharmacy, one studying medical laboratory science, one studying civil engineering, one studying human nutrition and dietetics. They have some in Lautech, Ogumosho, studying mass communication. Those whom we groom from kindergarten, from primary school, secondary school to that level.
Now, just before we go, because our time is fast spent on the show this morning, what would you say to the Oyo State government, and what advice would you give to them at this time?
Is that they should give priority to education. Even if I have to meet Seyi Makinde right now, I will advise him It's a pity he's now in his last lap of, he has presented his last budget. He has presented his last budget for his administration, 8 years of administration. I want to recommend that 50% of our budget should go to education. Go to nations in the world that have education as their sources of development, as their springboard for their development. They put enormous money into education, right from the kindergarten stage. And that is the foundation, up to higher institution. And by the time you are able to do this, put not less than 50% of your budget into education. And it's not that you just put money there, and not that you just put money there because of our society that is riddled with corruption. You have to make sure
closely monitored.
You have to be closely monitored to ensure that all the programs you want to execute with the money are effectively implemented. So that would be my honest advice. And they should prioritize education. Let's prioritize it to eliminate all these problems. Otherwise, the future is bleak.
Alhaji Skill Yusuf, thank you for joining us on the show this morning.
I'm so happy to be here.
It's been a wonderful session with you.
Thank God I have the opportunity to be here.
We would love to bring you back and talk about the correctional service in Nigeria.
I would love to have you because, like I told you, it's area where I'm so passionate about. Right. I'm not satisfied with the level of operation of the correctional service.
Thank you so much. We'll bring you back some other time to talk about this. Now, education remains one of the strongest foundations for national growth and development. When children are denied access to learning, society ultimately pays the price through poverty, insecurity, and lost opportunities. Today's conversation has again highlighted the urgent need for collective action from government, parents, communities, and stakeholders to ensure that every Nigerian child has access to education. And we sincerely appreciate our guest this morning, Alhaji Skill Yusuf, for sharing his insights on this important national issue. He's a former controller of prisons, and we say thank you to him. And to our viewers out there, thank you for staying with us on The Big Story on Daybreak Live. I am Samson Balogun, reminding you that every child deserves a classroom, a teacher, and a future. Have a wonderful day ahead.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live like never before? Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
All right, so welcome back from that short break. The show is still Daybreak Live right here on Dominion Television. I still have with me in the studio and Uluwapo. Welcome back.
Yeah, Samson, thank you. I mean, those are very important conversations, especially if you want to be serious about our future. And we know education is just at the very heart of any serious government.
And that was what we opened the show with this morning anyway. Well, it's a convenient place to leave the show this morning. So thank you for being a part of the show so far. And do not forget to join us again tomorrow on the midweek edition of Daybreak Live right here on Dominion Television, your channel of choice. Join us on all social media platforms. Drop your comment there. We'll take them on this show. Samson Balogun is my name. As I always say on this show, security business is everybody's business. So keep being good out there. Keep being safe. Bye for now.
And if you think education is expensive, why not try ignorance? And then you get everything. But anyway, my name is Anudwa Akpoido. Thank you very much for joining us. Bye for now.